I love the Sega Dreamcast. By the time I was finally able to get my hands on one, they were pretty cheap. I was only able to play Sonic Adventure and the iconic title of Sonic Shuffle. The overall story of the Dreamcast will always be a bummer to me. It was ahead of its time, had dope exclusives, great arcade ports, which were important at the time, weird cult classics, innovative online capabilities. Even the VMUs were pretty neat. But even with all that potential, the Dreamcast didn't last. Running Shine uses a term to describe Sonic Adventure. In the video, he calls it Dreamcast.
Sonic Adventure is the kind of game I can only describe as Dreamcast. Dreamcast is the feeling you get when playing a quality video game on your Sega Dreamcast, the best video game console ever made.
I'd say that feeling still exists in a few other places. I mean, of course you can play a few Dreamcast games on Steam, emulators too, and with mods you can recreate Sonic Adventure perfectly on PC. But what about new releases that try to go for that Dreamcast feeling? That's when Vivid Loop comes in. Vivid Loop is an arcade puzzle platformer that feels Dreamcast, and that's primarily because of its art style and soundtrack. It's such a great time, and pretty addicting too. I feel like I can't put it down until I clear a level. Now, as you can see, I'm not really good at it, but Vivid Loop is pretty fun regardless if you suck or not. Vivid Loop is so full of personality, with its silly dialogue and character designs. Speaking of the characters, they're so fun to watch. Before every level, there's a short that plays with the two main characters, and they're pretty cute. This one's my favorite. The gameplay itself is about covering tiles effectively and efficiently, while these little red dudes get in your way. There's also a bunch of different kinds of power-ups, and tiles that affect the way you play. One example is the dash pads, and these orbs that teleport you. Vivid Loop can get pretty hectic, especially if you're someone like me. It's still fun though, and believe it or not, I do try to get higher ranks. Other than what I talked about, I don't know how to pinpoint why exactly Vivid Loop feels like something Sega would make. I guess it could be that Sega has always made arcade type games. Dude, even the menu sound effects remind me of Dreamcast. Vivid Loop was developed by Jackalope, which I believe to be one person, which is freaking crazy. Big props to them. I also checked out their YouTube page, and it seems like they're inspired by Qbert, which is pretty cool. Definitely check out Vivid Loop and support the creators. It's only like $10, but if you can't spare that, totally check out the demo. After playing Vivid Loop, I thought I should play something with that distinct Dreamcast feel, which brought me to Kaluden's Curse is now one of my most anticipated games. What I'm currently showing you is the free prelude to the main game. If I'm being honest, I didn't get very far in, due to a few glitches I kept running into. It's a bummer, but the devs do update the demo, which is kinda neat if you ask me. With all that out of the way, this game has a ton of style that I love. Usually I'm not into indie games that lean into its art design, but this might be the one that I really enjoy. Kowloon's Curse takes place in a heightened reality version of the walled city of Kowloon in Hong Kong. As you can see, it's going for SMT style of gameplay. I dig how almost all of the NPCs are blank, nothing people. A few NPCs stand out as disturbing little creatures. I'd like to imagine this is how the protag, Tony, perceives everyone in his life, that his mental state is dissolved into seeing the world this way. One of my favorite parts of the demo is checking the image board. It was pretty funny, and the track that plays is groovy as heck. Lost Report does an amazing job of giving me a sense of unease, whether it's the presentation of the city, the way you move around, or even two NPCs discussing their mutual friend being a murderer. It's great at making me feel uncomfortable. Even with all that, there's also a feeling of nostalgia. It's either that I grew up with games looking like this, or the amazing soundtrack. Lost Report uses every facet of its design to make me feel something, which, for me at least, doesn't happen a lot. Now, this game isn't specifically going for Dreamcast. The lead dev said it's also inspired by PS1 dungeon crawlers. The specific inspiration from the Dreamcast was Shenmue.
Mario, would you teach me some Italian?
Oh, of course! Buono means good.
Okay, thanks.
He said all this in an interview I recommend reading if you're interested in the game. I know I didn't get to play much of Kowloon's Curse, but it has so much potential, and I can't wait to see what the full game will bring. Right around here, I want to bring up the great mod loaders for Sonic Adventure games. They do such a great job to recreate those ass PC ports into the original releases. For me, it's the only way to play those games. Check out the emulator Redream, it's pretty good. Mile High Taxi is a game directly inspired by the Dreamcast classic, but it doesn't really feel like Dreamcast, if that makes sense. I do feel like it should have been mentioned. Like I said earlier, the fate of the Dreamcast will always be a bummer. It barely even stood a chance against the PS2, the highest grossing console of all time, and the Xbox, which had Halo. But you know, I'll always remember the Dreamcast as one of the greats.
Hey, where you learn that from?
Grand Theft Auto 3?
Word? Can I borrow that?
You got a PlayStation 2?
Nah, I got GameCast.
Gamecast? Well, there's GameCube and then there's Dreamcast. What you got?
Well, I said I got GameCast, man. Damn, I can't afford it.